So once upon a time, this writer had worked himself up into an awful state. And he went to the doctor and he said, "Doc, you got to help me. My anxiety about my writing is destroying my quality of life." And the doctor said, "Well, gee, that sounds awful. Tell me more about your symptoms." And he said, "Well, I worry about the writing I haven't done. I worry about the writing I have done. And it's really distracting me. Like, I can't focus on my work. I can't be present with my family. You got to do something, doc. You got to help me. Say you can help me." And the doctor says, "Okay, I have an idea. This sounds really awful. We've got to do something. Are you willing to try something?" And the writer says, "I'll try anything. Like, I want to write this book and I can't. I'm making no progress because I'm so worried because my anxiety." And the doctor says, "Okay, okay. Take a deep breath. Here's what we're going to do. During the day, when you catch yourself feeling really anxious about your writing, I want you to just take out a notepad and write down the specific thing that you're worried about. And then you won't forget it, and you can come back and you can be anxious about it later. But we can't have the anxiety leaking into every moment of your day. So as you go through the day, you just notice when you're feeling anxious and you just write down the specific thing that's on your mind." And the writer's thinking, "Okay, um, then what? Once I've got this massive list of all the things I'm worried about, then what?" And the doctor says, "Well, then in the evening, we're going to set aside some specific time where you can just feel all your anxiety at once and you can just do all your worrying at once so that it's not keeping you from being present with your family and from focusing at work." And the aspiring author says, "Well, I mean, it doesn't sound like a great plan." And the doctor says, "Look, you came in here desperate. Will you try it? Will you just try it?" And the writer says, "Yeah, doc, I'll try it. You're right. I am desperate. This can't continue. I got, I got writing to do and a life to live." So he leaves the doctor's office and he's only just gotten in his car when he starts to worry about his writing again. So he pulls over and he jots down, the specific thing he's worried about. And then it happens again about an hour later, and he's got a legal pad. And by the end of the day, it's full up, the whole page with just things that he's worried about. And, he explains to his wife and kids that he needs to take a little bit of time, doctor's orders. And so he goes to be alone with his list of things to feel anxious about. And he's sitting there and he's feeling anxious about them all at once. And it's really creating this uncomfortable pressure in his body, this feeling of just inefficacy that is intolerable. But he's just bearing with it and he's going item by item and he's feeling all the anxiety that he put off till later. And it's just, and it's really draining him. And he can see how this must have been draining him all day, every day, because it's really tough to just sit with this stuff and just focus on it. And he gets about halfway through the list and he says, I can't do this. If I'm going to worry about my writing, I might as well have something to show for it. So he pulls out his laptop and he starts, typing a little bit about his anxiety, but then he starts getting a few ideas for a story and he ends up writing for about half an hour and gets a few hundred words down. And the next day, the same thing happens. He tries to follow the doctor's orders. He diligently writes down all of the moments when he's feeling the most anxious about the ideas for his book, about the writing he hasn't done, about the writing he has done, about, the future of his author career, about all the years he wasted. He gets it all down. And then when, the time rolls around for him to sit with all his anxious worries, he sits down and he tries to sit with them. He tries to sit with them and he goes through them one at a time and he feels like the terrible weight of every single worry. And then finally he thinks, I'm going to turn this heavy weight of worry into a few words because this is just creating pressure that's not being relieved. And would you believe the next day, the same thing happened? So about 2 weeks later, he goes back to the doctor. And, he walks in and the doctor says, is everything okay? You look like something's wrong. I was feeling kind of optimistic about the update, but, why the long face? And the writer says, well, I feel a little guilty, Doc. I didn't exactly follow your advice. And the doctor says, well, what do you mean? Tell me what happened. He said, well, it started okay. Like it started okay. I was writing down the specific things that I was like, really frustrated and festering about. And, I was getting the worries down. I was getting the anxiety, if it was good to get the anxiety out, and on paper, and it was helping me get back to focusing on work and being present with the family, because I knew I could worry about it later. And the doctor says, okay, well, that sounds like everything went to plan. And he goes, no, it didn't go to plan, because then as soon as I sat down to just be with my anxiety and give it my full attention, it was awful, Doc. Like I just, I could do it for a few minutes, but then after a few minutes, it just felt like such an awful waste of time. And so I ended up just kind of pulling out my laptop and working on my book instead. And the doctor said, sorry, you what? He said, I pulled out my laptop. I worked on my book instead. I know that wasn't the plan. I know that wasn't what I was supposed to be doing, but like it just felt like if I was going to worry about my writing, I might as well have something to show for it. And the doctor said, huh, isn't that interesting? Well, I'd say that's a pretty successful experiment, wouldn't you? And the author kind of sits there and he's thinking about the thousands of words that he's written since the beginning of the experiment, and how he's kind of actually a little bit proud of himself for all the progress he's made. And even though he had to kind of face some pain to do it, like he has made some pretty good progress. And the doctor says, this is interesting. Like what did you learn from this? And the author says, it's funny, Doc. It's almost like the time I spend writing is time I don't spend worrying about my writing.